Okay.
to one of our colleagues, Karen Swenson, who is joining us via Zoom with some information that she's gotten about Jefferson Parish. Karen?
Hey, Eric. I'm so sorry that I'm away from you and you've been on my constant thoughts. But I am here in New York City. I got stuck here when I dropped my daughter off to school. But talking to my sources, you are looking at video there on Twitter. We pull it up again. That was taken about an hour ago, maybe 45 minutes ago, going down Jeff Highway. And it gives you some sense, because I know when people are out of town, like I am, you're starving for information about what your neighborhood looks like. So this is Jeff going down Jefferson Highway in Metairie. I was talking to the fire chief, and he basically was saying, stay home. It's the message you keep hearing. He said there are, there'll be an empty lane. Someone will zoom by only to find that there's a downed line. So they did say that they were efforting at this point to get down to Lafitte and help with those rescues. They are trying to respond to the backlog of calls. But as you can see, Metairie, this is Jeff Highway, not looking great, but by comparison, way better than a lot of the other parishes.
Yeah. And Karen,
Eric, I can tell you, I'm about to, go ahead.
As you've probably seen on some of the video, I mean, there are big transmission lines that are over I-10. There are trees down, power is out. Power is going to be out for probably weeks here. I mean, this has been a really rough storm. This storm, as we've said a bunch of times, it was almost like having an EF2 tornado last for 12 hours and rip through the state.
It's the perfect anecdote, or really, Eric, or analogy, excuse me. Let me tell you, I just got off the phone with two NOLA council members, both of whom said that, as I think you've reported, no timetable from Entergy New Orleans with respect to restoring the power. However, they do have a call at 11 o'clock your time to discuss that. I talked to a senior member of the NOPD just a moment ago as well, who said that there are more trees and wires down than there were in Katrina. Obviously this was a wind event, Katrina was a water event, but pretty much, all of the district offices, just like the rest of the city, out of power. So it's very, very difficult to communicate. I have heard you and Sheba and Leslie talking about the phone and cell coverage. Anecdotally, to me, this is exactly like Katrina. Only the people I know who have Verizon, and I have Verizon, are able to communicate with text and phone calls. I am finding that anyone with AT&T, they can't communicate. They're using other people's phones. T-Mobile, also very difficult. You can text with T-Mobile. Again, this is anecdotally, but you're not able to, you cannot talk on the phone, and you cannot send pictures as well.
Yeah.
As I'm talking, there were some other pictures I tweeted. So if the director wants to look at the Twitter feed, you can see some pictures that were taken in Jefferson Parish as well that shows various roof damage and building damage, store damage on Jeff Highway. So just know that you have that. And I just got
if I can just get something on the phone issue, we are able to text out. It's kind of like Katrina. I had Verizon at the time. With Katrina, you could not call out, but you could text out. It was the first time I used texting, and now the same thing with AT&T. Apparently, Sheba said it was an AT&T problem that yeah, that's
these are some of those pictures that were
St. Bernard
sent.
Sheriff's Office said that, yeah.
And these were some of the pictures that was. These were the pictures that were sent to me about an hour ago. So it gives you some idea. I am not familiar where on Jeff Highway this was taken, but if you're in that neighborhood, you certainly recognize it.
Yeah.
Also, I just got some pictures, and I'm going to be tweeting them momentarily, and we'll rejoin you. Some relatives in St. Rose, and it is. It's just so disheartening. You just see them driving down the street and the mammoth trees that were uprooted. I mean, such a wind event, like you said, a tornado that ripped across the entire region for hours on end.
Yeah, and it's going to be a long cleanup. The cleanup was different after Katrina. It's going to be different for this storm. They're totally different, ironically on the same days, but that's not gone unnoticed by any of us. But no, it's going to be a tough time. And so many homes had so much wind damage. I was talking to a gentleman with FEMA today, and he said that they're going to be getting those blue tarps out as fast as they can, because they're going to need them.
Yes, indeed. You talked about it's not lost on any of us, right? It's the same date as Katrina. I was just talking to a friend who wrote out the storm uptown, and I said, well, how are you doing? What about the kids? He said, right now I'm just paralyzed. And I think a lot of people are just sort of emotionally trying to come to grips with what has happened, but we all know that we will rebound. I will tell you on a good note, I have been in constant communication with a doctor inside Oxnard, Maine. And earlier this morning, he said there's lots of debris and a lot of people are anxious about what's going on outside. That was very early this morning. About 10 minutes ago, actually, I wrote it down at 10:52. He said things are looking good in the hospital and we will likely be bringing in patients from other Oxnard facilities.
Okay, good.
I know I saw a tweet last night, right, where the Kenner facility had some roof damage, but Oxnard, Maine is looking good. So that's really good.
Actually, they're going to have a video Zoom news conference coming up in about 13 minutes from now at 10:30 with Warner Thomas and talking about some of the things that have happened at Oxnard. And we keep on referencing Katrina, but you do remember after Katrina, I remember being in town and you'd walk around and I'd be in a store because you wanted to get ice, you always wanted ice, but people walked around with that just zombie look. And I was doing the same thing because you were just so shell-shocked by what had happened. And you kind of just went through the motions of life, just trying to get everything back together and just the necessities of life.
It's so bizarre, Eric, right? I mean, we were there 16 years ago. And ironically, right before Katrina happened, every year we do that hurricane special in June. And I was assigned that year in 2005 to talk to a statistician at LSU who was just taking a look at what are the odds of a major hurricane hitting our area. And I'll never forget because it was like every 30 years or so. And if you thought back, it was Camille and Betsy,
Sure.
And then it was like Katrina. Who would have thought it would happen so soon? I mean, so many of the people who are dealing with Ida and the ramifications of Ida are still very much, impacted by the way in which life changed after Katrina. So we remember, like you said, you almost feel like you're walking. To me, now I'm on the opposite side. Like I'm so hungry for information on what you guys are able to provide. I'm wondering if, how my relatives are. Can't reach them. Wondering how the house is. I think that the anxiety is completely normal, but nevertheless,
Yeah.
there.
And we think back to Katrina because we were on the west side of that. Should have been the easy side. I remember being on the phone that morning with Walter Maestri from Jefferson Parish, and it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and we saw it make a jog to the east, and we both thought, well, we've dodged a bullet, and we thought we were going to be okay. Nobody knew how bad the levees were, and just how much of a storm surge had come up while that storm was a Category 5 for days in the Gulf. And that was the big problem. This time we are on the east side of the storm, the stronger side of the storm, and you can see the damage. And this was this came ashore as a much more powerful storm than Katrina did. Katrina came in as a 3, this came in as a very powerful 4, and we could see the damage. And it just wreaked havoc on Lafitte, Terrebonne, and then kept on going straight up the state.
It is so frustrating not to be able to communicate now, just as we found after Katrina. But it's not, as in my opinion, being from far away, so you could correct me, it doesn't seem like the communication is as bad as it was after Katrina. It seemed like it was pretty much non-existent at that point. But I'm no longer able to get videos and pictures out of St. Tammany because the people that I knew didn't, their cell phones aren't working.
Yeah.
But I did want to mention a big story that's going to impact courts. And that was something we reported on yesterday. And that is that the winds ripped off the roof of municipal traffic court. Sean Early, we're well familiar with the Early family,
Yes.
spoke with him. And he was like, you know what, we went paperless, thinking that was the best thing to do. Here comes this Category 4, whatever it was, when it hit New Orleans, it rips off the roof. Water goes from the 3rd floor to the 2nd to the 1st. And that's all computerized equipment. He said, soaking wet. So he said, no idea when they're going to be up and running again.
Yeah.
No idea.
And I'm stunned by that because that's the first time I'm hearing that information.
Yes, yes, that was last night. I spoke with Sean, Judge Early, and that was in fact confirmed. I had some friends who were actually eyeballing it from across the street at police headquarters, and then it was confirmed through Judge Early. Yeah, so that's going to have huge ramifications for the judicial system here. Also, they were saying too, there's the new crime lab at White and Gravier, if I remember the crossroads. That's under construction, and all of that construction equipment and material was just thrown all over the place as projectiles and stuff we always warn against. But you can't batten down all the hatches across the entire region.
No, and you know, when I was talking with Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser, we were talking about, you know, it's going to be a long time before we have a lot of the necessities that we're kind of used to. Power being one of the biggest ones. You know, we're having water pressure problems. They're asking people to conserve on water, and it's everywhere. Okay, Karen, we're gonna have to leave you now. And go to that presser with Asha.
Asha Staples does have a presser, guys. I don't know if we're prepared to take that. Can we get that up as I update people on Lafitte Parish? She's texting me that we need to take that now. All right, so we're going to try to get some information on that. Right now, we are getting an update from Lafitte Parish. Parish President Archie Chasson says no injuries there, and we'll give you the rest of that update in a second. Let's get straight over to Asha in Lafitte.
Down there in Lafitte, launching from this location, trying to rescue whatever residents were left down in Lafitte. As y'all know, the storm came through last night. We've got a lot of high water that's really never been in those places before. In fact, I talked to one resident who's lived down there and has never had water in their house and actually had 8 feet last night. So we're doing those rescue operations. We had a count of, probably about 400 people before the storm that we tried to determine that was down there. We're out here with our boats. Obviously, you got people from the Cajun Navy coming to help. We've got enough resources here on the ground. I want to let that people know, making sure that, we have enough boats and trying to pick up. Some of the camp members are actually still in their camps and above high ground. Looks like most of the structures that are built up on stilts are still structurally intact. Some had water in them, some don't. So we're trying to figure out those things and obviously bring everybody back to safety that we can. Hopefully this operation won't be a long term. This isn't a Hurricane Katrina where we're trying to evacuate the city of New Orleans. We're talking about, a maximum maybe 400 residents that stayed down, but I don't even think that number was that high at the end of the day. So we hopefully we'll be able to wrap this operation up pretty quick. But thanks to everybody out here that's trying to help.
Are you requesting everyone to leave that you guys find, or are you letting folks stay at their home?
Look, I let people make big boys decisions, right? The truth of it is some of their houses and structures are built for this, and they're okay. And as long as they're okay and not needing assistance, we're not going to force them and put them in a boat to bring them back. But there are other people that obviously are not in that situation. So we're making sure we're getting all of them out first, and we'll continue to do so.
Have you found any injured or anybody affected?
I've heard some minor injuries and stuff. We have ambulances here, but I haven't heard anything major. Nothing that's been reported to me, at least. We will have people on standby to be able to handle that if need be, but I haven't heard anything major.
Sure, it looks like there's just a concentration of airboats going out there as opposed to flat bottom boats. Explain a little bit of just, I guess, how it's being a challenge to navigate.
Well, you've got different, different landscapes, right? I mean, we're launching from a road here, then we're going to have to go into the canal and then come out. So we're trying to get mission-ready boats that are able to handle it. We've probably turned away about 4 or 5 boats already that, either too large of fiberglass fiberglass boat that doesn't make sense. They're going to hit the cement and end up sinking themselves, or too small of a flat boat where I can't put people in it, and that's the mission, is a rescue mission. Allowed anybody that's launched that has what I call a mission-ready boat that and do part of the job. From what we're seeing right now, we don't have a ton of people that are being required to be rescued. We think we probably have enough boats in the water, but I'm not going to turn anybody away. If they came down here to try to help, we'll give them the opportunity. And if they happen to pick up 1 or 2 people, guess what? It's easier for the rest of us.
We've even seen a couple of vehicles driving out of there. Obviously not advisable, but with communications being what they are.
Hey, look, I know there's no communications down there because we've had to go down there and be able to get word to family members, so there's no communication down there. We're going to try to get some radios down there to the mayor who's down there and make sure that they can have some communications. I saw a Pontiac just drive out a little while ago, which I may have to buy some of those for my next high water vehicle. Still the water's deep by all means, and it's not passable by car.
What are you guys expecting once the water recedes finally? What are you expecting to see, and the process going to be like moving forward?
Well, it's repair. You know, I mean, let's face it. We've got a big parish here, but we'll always come together. We'll repair it. You know, we'll go back to our way of life. You know, as somebody always tells me, some days you live in the water, some days the water lives on you. You know, and unfortunately, this is a situation where the water's living on them. But you know, they have a great quality of life down here. These fishing communities that are outside our levee protection district. You know, we want to make sure we can protect their livelihood, and a great place to live here in South Louisiana. You know, it makes our jobs more difficult sometimes, but we understand it's important to our community here in Jefferson Parish, and we'll make sure we'll be here for them.
And I know we spoke to you, Councilman.
Well, the outside major levee district that protects most of the metropolitan area was completely fine. Lafitte itself has a smaller levee district that protects them from the everyday tidal surges and stuff like that. That was overtopped. But I mean, you would expect that to happen in this type of storm, right? I don't know if it broke because the water's still high enough over that levee system to tell you if it broke or, you know, or anything. But the truth of it is our major system that protects most of the metropolitan area is fine. Yeah.
You're standing on this is our furthest levee to the south, so you're actually standing on it. Everything beyond that is lower.
And I know I spoke to you just a moment ago when you told us that first bus of the rescued were going to that shelter. What was their emotions like? Were you able to speak with anybody? What was that like?
A lot of them were tired and fatigued, concerned, and I'm sure shocked by the volume of water. I'm the parish's former Homeland Security Director, and this is probably the fourth rescue operation of this nature that we've conducted in Lafitte in the last 30 years. The water has never, ever been this high. I mean, this is historic flooding for the city of Lafitte.
Were they relieved?
Yes, many of them were relieved. They had their pets with them. They were just glad to get out of the water.
And look, let's be clear about the levees in Lower Lafitte. These are tidal levees that protect up to 7 feet, not 100-year protection in which the parish is protected as a whole. We're right now standing on the outside of the levee protector system. Those levees that were tidal levees for 7 feet were compromised. The water was higher, the surge was deeper than the levees themselves, so they were compromised, never failed.
We talked to some folks who live not far away, and were trying to go down there with their boats to check to see if friends, family members were okay. There was some thought that they may be caught up in their attics. Are you hearing that's the case?
No, I mean, we had some rescue calls last night, and Gene Lafitte ended up with their fire department and police department made some rescues last night for different people. Look, we're going to go to house and go check it. You know, I mean, the reality of it is the water will continue to recede, and we'll go house to house just like we did the other day to check on people, make sure that they got out, and compare it to the list that we made the other day to see who's left there. You know, most of the properties that are going to be down there, if we have to go in the attic, if they're in the attic and the water's still over, I mean, it's obviously going to be uncomfortable today, but we're going to get to them, and the water will go down, and we'll do our best to make sure that we can get them out.
Thank you, Sheriff.
No, not a problem.
Let me get your full name, Sheriff.
I'm Sheriff Joseph Lopinto.
Okay, that was a quick little impromptu press conference. We just wrapping up here in Lafitte, getting some sound with the sheriff. He just made it on scene, so getting his response to this situation going on here. We've been here for a few hours. Those rescue missions have been going on for a few hours now. That first boat of the rescued, first bus of the rescue just left here maybe about 30 minutes ago. They are at the Pard Playground, just not too far away from here. So that's where our next destination is going to be, trying to talk to those folks that actually were able to get rescued. As you heard one of the councilmen talking about those that are rescued, just a sigh of relief, I'm sure. Their emotions are pretty high. They're finally probably able to get a little bit of rest at this point because, again, they were just met with some circumstances that they probably did not prepare for, or maybe didn't think was going to be met with them with this hurricane that we saw on yesterday. But again, they're saying that it wasn't the levee was not compromised. That's one thing that they want to try to reiterate for folks who are thinking that maybe it failed. But again, this is something that they tried to plan for as best as they could, and they're going to go door to door, making sure that those that want to leave their homes are able to do so timely and very safely, guys.
All right, thank you very much.